Hello, my name is Juan Lima, and this is my final presentation on the company game that we did in this class. I'm going to be focusing on diamond mining in Canada. So today I'm going to be talking about my company and its original goals, the mineral I chose and the location that was chosen, the mining method and where the mineral will be processed as well, how we're going to go about closing the mine and reclaiming the land, and then just a little bit of a reflection on the choices that were made and how they align with the original company goals. So the first stage was to get started. I outlined 3 goals that I wanted to focus on. The first one was to mine ethically. The second one was to maximize profits whenever possible. And the third is to always consider and prioritize how decisions that we as a company make will impact the environment. I chose my diamonds over rare earth elements and coltan for a few reasons. Diamonds obviously are selling at a premium, especially due to the heavy marketing from De Beers in the 1940s. Diamonds are a lot more common than people think, and they have many uses in industry on top of just being gemstones. They are the hardest mineral in the world, so they're very useful in industry as well. And then the post-processing of diamonds is not as environmentally damaging as REEs and coltan. So that was also a factor in my decision. I also chose to locate the company in Canada. Canada is the world's third highest diamond producer with 18.6 million carats of diamonds produced in 2018. Canadian diamonds are some of the highest grade diamonds in the world. So when putting them out in the market, they will typically be selling at the top of the market value. And then Canada has a lot of policies and standards in place to protect the environment and local communities where diamond mining takes place. Some of the positives and negatives of choosing to mine in Canada. Canadian diamonds are etched for tracking purposes, so the diamonds mined by a company can be verified to not be from blood diamond origin. Whereas there are many diamonds out there, if they don't follow the international standards, you don't know exactly where you got it. Mining in Canada will be a challenging venture since a lot of those diamond mines are located close to the Arctic Circle. So we will need to be prepared. The equipment that will be used and the infrastructure that is built will need to be able to handle some of the harshest weather in the world. And the cost of operating a mine in Canada will be high due to the environmental studies that need to be done before production and the wages that are paid to workers. They're much higher than in many developing nations around the world. In Canada, diamonds are typically found in primary deposits. Mining at the source, to me, makes the most sense since it's more predictable via study how many diamonds you might be able to find. Secondary deposits travel from the source, so from a primary deposit, so it just makes more sense to me to extract them from the source rather than downstream. While open pit mining at the source is expensive and can damage the surrounding ecosystem, it can be isolated just to the mining area and kind of limit the surrounding areas. Obviously, there will be things like dust, noise, that will get out of that local area, but it can definitely be a lot more controlled. And then secondary deposit mining does affect rivers, and that will not only impact the surrounding area, but everything downstream from those rivers can be polluted as well. So as I just mentioned, I chose open pit mining instead of underground mining or ocean mining. I believe that underground mining poses too many dangers to workers, like the potential for a mine to collapse. And then ocean mining seems like a very, very expensive venture. You need to have helicopters flying to the offshore platforms to pick up the diamonds that have been mined, which would be incredibly expensive, not to mention the impact that it would have on the underwater ecosystem as well. With a less risky approach in open pit mining, I believe my company will be able to attract higher skilled workers. And open pit mining provides savings since less money has to be spent on equipment and infrastructure. There's one main opportunity that's introduced via open pit mining, and that's the potential for high profits due to the savings on machinery and infrastructure compared to underground mining, like I just mentioned. The only issue is that it is offset. The money that you save on machinery and infrastructure is going to come out of our pockets regardless later on, since the environmental impact from open pit mining is very high. The area will most likely have to go through extensive remediation, and that will be expensive and could eat away at a lot of the savings from choosing to open pit mine. The surrounding area will have a lot of waste, rock, dust, and water pollution. These challenges from open pit mining do not align with my company's goals of being as environmentally friendly as possible. However, pretty much all diamond mining methods will damage the surrounding area. So what we will do is just prioritize the restoration of the land to the same conditions or better once the mine is closed. I've chosen to process the diamonds locally in Canada rather than ship them out to an offshore country. Canada has a lot of local environmental regulations and are more stringent here locally in Canada than in offshore countries. It is usually cheaper to process ores in offshore countries because of their lack of environmental and human rights regulations. Wages are usually not as high in other countries, and things like remediation don't always have to be done. However, because of our goals of ethically mining and being good to the environment, I believe it's worth the extra money to process those diamonds in Canada. I also believe that even though it's more expensive in Canada, the higher cost of processing or cutting the diamonds in Canada can be passed down to the consumer later on. Diamonds already sell at a premium. If you want a diamond, you are willing to spend money on a diamond. So we can charge more and potentially even make more money. There will be a lot of people that want to buy local. A lot of Canadians would be proud to own a Canadian diamond that was sourced in Canada and processed in Canada. So we would take advantage of that. And then cutting diamonds are not as environmentally impactful as using rare earth metals or many other minerals. So a marketing approach for job creation and growing the local economy could convince residents to approve the processing of diamonds in their area. Obviously, we would be creating high-paying jobs in that area. There will be a couple of environmental fallouts during the remediation process after the mine closes. I went over these a little bit, but there will be a lot of waste rock created from open pit mining. That rock needs somewhere to go afterwards. So we would dump all of that rock back in during remediation and then make sure that that land can be used. Obviously, removing all of the pollutants that are left over. During the mining process, there is a lot of dust as well that it can make its way over to the surrounding towns and communities. There will be people living close to the mine, especially if we do it up north, because they're all very remote areas. So dust is more or less part of the process, and all we can do is make sure that the workers are wearing as much of their personal protective equipment to reduce any diseases or illnesses that can come from breathing in dust. And then water pollution is something that comes from open pit mining. There's a lot of groundwater that can be hit during the open pit process. So those are just kind of some of the environmental fallouts that could happen from our open pit mining. I believe that investing in the Canadian economy brings the benefit of a high profit potential. As I mentioned earlier, the cost of cutting diamonds in Canada will be more significant than offshore, but the diamonds can also be sold at a higher cost and marketed as entirely Canadian. The environmental impacts will be lower here in Canada since the policies that the government has put in place are a lot more stringent than they would be in offshore countries. So we do have to be responsible when we are mining in Canada and processing as well. The main real challenge is that the processing costs are a lot more significant by doing so in Canada. There's a loss of profit there, but like I mentioned, this challenge can be offset by selling the diamonds at a higher cost, potentially even increasing our profit margins. Finally, stage 4, it is now time to close the mine. From the beginning, I laid out those 3 reasons, high profits, ethical mining, and being protective of our environment. And then obviously giving back to the community. If a community is willing to open their arms and allow you to build a mine where they live, you want to let them know that you appreciate that and you want to give back to the community as much as possible. That is what my company would do during the remediation process. We would not just do the bare minimum. We would go way above and beyond that. We would reinvest in the community, and the remediation process itself would provide many jobs in the future. My mine is being closed in a developed nation, Canada. I decided to do the entire process in Canada because the environmental regulations, although more expensive, require a company to take care of the land they use, which aligns with the ethical mining principles of my company. I did learn along the process that Canada requires companies to do environmental studies and determine feasibility of profit before building. Canada does also require companies to remediate the land after the mine closes. I mentioned going above and beyond in terms of the remediation, and I believe there are many benefits to that. My company can show its commitment to the environment and the local community through action instead of just words. My company's essential goals are both the environment and giving back to the local community, which we're doing by going above and beyond with the remediation. We can keep jobs in the local community and allow the company to develop new tools over time, since the remediation process will take a very long time. And obviously, good publicity. There will be stories written, news about this company that is actually willing to spend the millions of dollars that it costs to restore the land back to its original state, or maybe even better than the original state. The one major challenge is that the remediation process will be lengthy and costly. However, due to the company's good publicity and track record, future opportunities will allow the company to stay in business. People will want to work with a company that is responsible, and that's what we would like to show. So as a conclusion, I've mentioned that my company's goals were to mine ethically, to maximize profits, and to take care of the environment. By choosing to mine in Canada and process the diamonds in Canada, a country that has strict regulations, I believe that we were able to reach our goal of mining ethically rather than going to another country, dumping our garbage there, taking advantage of loose regulations. We did give up on profit a little bit, but there has to be a balance, and it is better to not absolutely maximize profit. We were able to do that in other ways. In Canada, they are some of the highest grade diamonds, so we can sell them at a really high price. And processing them in Canada allows us to grow our margins even more. Once we do the remediation and get the good publicity, that will also open future opportunities for us, which can lead to the company staying in business for a long time, something that is sustainable. And then finally, open pit mining does have many downsides. Taking care of the environment was the most challenging. I can feel good about the choice to restore the land for better conditions than before the mine opened, and then leaving a positive impression on the local community. Moving forward, I would like to focus on holding on to the items I own, since pretty much everything we own has something that was mined, and not replacing them until they can't be used anymore. Things like replacing a cell phone after 2 years only add to the environmental impacts mining has on our world, and usually it takes place in countries where the people have no say whether it's done there. So then the last page here is just my references. Thank you so much for watching.